We've hit the climax of the current season, which means Season 3 and an inevitable reality collapse are on the way. So, how do we even get to Season 3? Well, what if I told you that right now in the Fortnite multiverse, there are actually 2 0 points? After the Voyager dipped from the OG island, it's safe to say he never found the shard he was looking for over there. But we already know that OG has its own 0-point dimension, which we got teleported to during the Season 5 mini-event. If my theory holds up, there could literally be 2 0 points existing in Fortnite right now. One in the present day, on the Golden Coast, which the Dark Voyager is trying to patch up using the shards. The other is tucked away in the OG vault. And the kicker? Having them this close to each other could trigger anomalies and paradoxes way gnarlier than anything we saw before. But I'll dive deeper into that on later, so if you're hooked, stick around. One of those anomalies is the Elite's stronghold. It looks like Zadie isn't just recruiting the biggest badasses from across the multiverse, she's also a massive hoarder. Inside the Elite's stronghold, you can spot an imagined order drill, and even cube ore. Add a 0-point shard to that laundry list, and suddenly the Dark Voyager is making a beeline straight there to snatch it. Honestly, it looks like this place used to be an old Imagine order base. At first glance, it just looks like a total lore Easter eggs. But the Elites are actually putting all this junk to work. An excavation drill, cube ore to craft new weapons. I have a gut feeling Zadie knows exactly what she's doing. This collection is the key to something way bigger. While we're still on the topic of the OG mode, let's jump back to the whole 2 0 points thing and break down what kind of chaos could pop off from them existing at the same time. First off, the OG mode is already acting insanely unstable. Red rifts, red cubes, all of this is highly volatile energy that first showed up right here in OG. There's a solid chance this power is directly tied to the second, one, and only 0 point. Technically, this 0 point shouldn't even exist, because the OG dimension itself is essentially a massive glitch in the Matrix, meaning the energy it's pumping out is glitchy too. What's crazy is that back in Season 5, we literally went inside the 0 point dimension, which strongly hints that this OG 0 point is sitting in the vault right now. And don't forget, the red cube was in that dimension too. Whether it was trying to corrupt the place with its energy, or activate something, we still don't know for sure. But the fact remains, it was there. And cubes don't just take casual strolls through dimensions for no reason. It's no coincidence that the red cube, which Jonesy summoned during the 0 Hour event, wasn't part of the last reality simulation plan. It seems like this is a wild card that literally nobody has a leash on. Not the Voyager, not the last reality, nobody. If the OG vault is hiding an entire corrupted 0 point instead of just a shard, the Voyager is seriously playing with fire. How's this gonna end? Probably terribly. While the Voyager piecing the 0 point back together, the entire vibe of Showdown season revolves around the beef between the Foundation and the Ice King. But why do these two even have so much bad blood? With the Foundation, it's obvious. The Rock got put on ice by the King, which took him off the board for a long time. It makes total sense why he's ready to throw hands. But the Ice King's side of things is what's keeping me up at night. According to Jones, the Ice King is straight up obsessed with the Foundation. Jones thinks this tunnel vision is super sus, almost like someone explicitly sicked the Ice King on him. Someone like, say, the Dark Voyager? Even though the Voyager and the Ice King have an alliance on paper, the cube-headed dude could totally leave the Ice Boy out to dry, or vice versa. If you actually pay attention to Lady Winfrost's song from the Battle Pass, she spills the tea. The Voyager made a deal with the Ice King, where the King takes out the Foundation, and in return, the Voyager helps the King restore the elemental balance of the universe, which is exactly what the original Ice King was trying to do. But here's the catch. In her song, Winfrost drops massive hints that the Voyager is totally playing him, and behind all the smoke and mirrors, he's only looking out for himself. This elf girl seems to be trying to knock some sense into her king, and convince him to rip up the contract with the Voyager. With the plot making an absolutely insane comeback this chapter, it's been a hot minute since we checked in on Dr. Sloan. Turns out, she's alive and well. Recently, Zadie managed to ping her signal and confirmed it. The former director of the Imagined Order is cooking up something massive, though we don't know exactly what yet. Fun fact, Zadie actually debated trying to recruit Sloan to the Elites, but ultimately decided it was way too risky. In her eyes, bringing the boss into their base could seriously throw a wrench in her own master plans. Long story short, the return of Sloane is just a matter of time now. But Dr. Sloane isn't the only OG heavy hitter gearing up for a comeback. There's another massive player on the horizon, the one who pulling all the strings behind the scenes for the first 3 chapters, the big bad himself, Gino. It turns out that this genius has some extremely deep ties to the elites, and they've been dropping breadcrumbs everywhere. Slapped right on the main arena building is a crest that looks suspiciously like Gino's signature emblem. And let's not forget, Zadie used to be the head of security for the Imagined Order, which means she was directly on Gino's payroll. So what if this whole idea of assembling a super army of the best wasn't even Zadie's idea, but actually a master plan handed down from her old boss? We all know Gino is a total control freak who is obsessed with absolute perfection. If that's the case, the particles accelerator than was under the LABDs this whole time isn't just there to look cool, it's a direct hotline, or maybe even a summoning portal, to bring Gino back into our reality. Its true purpose is still a massive question mark, but the fact that Gino is already breathing down our necks is undeniable. So before the epilogue of this season, and I guess the climax of the Wool story begins, almost every single day, something crazy happens in Fortnite. No matter which mode you play, events that tie all the story to one same direction is happening. One minute the Voyager randomly crashes the OG mode, then he in reload. The next minute, Save the World characters are randomly popping up on our island. Or a brand new map drops packed with 1,000,000 lore secrets, from cube ore all the way to Imagined Order gear. So yeah, the storyline is officially back and feels better than ever. I wonder what you guys think about all of this, and if you are hyped for this event finale. Cause it feels like once the Voyager assembles the 0 point, it leads us straight to Season 3, and some dimension or world that we can't even imagine. What's it going to be? Rumors and leaks are pointing at a symbiote season, but reality itself can change way more than that. Maybe not all the characters will survive, or maybe this season will conclude the 7 arc, or the 0 point arc itself. We are likely looking at a complete map overhaul, and data miners have already corroborated that starting from the 3rd season, the game files point toward an entirely different environment. There are no signs of mini-seasons, or a temporary OG throwback to Chapter 3. Instead, everything points to a massive shift that mirrors the scale of the Zero Crisis event we witnessed years ago when Agent Jones accidentally destabilized reality. The instability of the 0 point acts as a beacon for cosmic entities, and this brings us to the most significant leak we've seen regarding the theme of the next season. While many theories have missed the mark in the past, the evidence for a massive Marvel crossover, specifically one centered around the King in Black, is becoming impossible to ignore. The rumors suggest that the explosion or rift caused by the 0 point's reassembly will serve as the entry point for the symbiote god known as Knull. We have previously seen hints that the upcoming season would be symbiote-themed, but to understand the stakes, you have to understand who Knull actually is, and why his arrival is a much bigger deal than any previous antagonist. Knull is not just another powerful alien, he is the primordial god of the void who existed long before the Big Bang or the creation of the light itself. In the Marvel mythos, he is the creator of the all-black Necrosword and the progenitor of the entire symbiote race, including well-known characters like Venom and Carnage. Knull's power level is almost beyond comprehension within the context of the Fortnite universe. He is an ancient being who waged war against the Celestials, the literal architects of the universe, and managed to decapitate one of them with a single blow from his sword. This decapitated head eventually became the location known as Nowhere in Marvel lore, which gives you an idea of the scale we are dealing with. Knull represents the living abyss. That got me thinking, what if the latest hints from LEGO Fortnite about the Avengers facing the Nothing are actually hinting that Knull is the Nothing? There is a logical trail of breadcrumbs leading us to this conclusion that goes beyond just leaks. If we look back at the promotional campaign for the current season, Epic Games made several overt references to the upcoming Avengers Doomsday movie. They specifically mentioned will return in Fortnite Showdown, which are clear nods to the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe trajectory. Epic rarely drops these kinds of specific hints without a long-term payoff. Like I mentioned in my previous videos, a lot of sources were predicting the trajectory of Chapter 7 before it even launched, but the rumors surrounding Season 3 and its symbiote theme really caught my eye. Honestly, it's a bit of a curveball, because when you look at where we are right now, the map, the current plot, and the overall direction of the season, there aren't any obvious signs of a shift towards symbiotes. That said, I've noticed a few things that are already starting to stand out. Right now, we're witnessing a pretty brutal power struggle between the Ice King's forces and the Foundation's team. Even though the Ice King seems to be leading the narrative for now, everything suggests that the Foundation's team will ultimately come out on top regardless of the current score. We're seeing plenty of hints about this, specifically in the Lady Windfrost loading screen, which I want to take a closer look at. In that image, the King's castle is completely leveled. This will likely happen once the Infinity Blade returns to the game. When the castle falls, the King's prisoners will finally be set free. One of those prisoners is Captain America. You might wonder what Cap has to do with a symbiote theme, but knowing Fortnite, it's easy to imagine a symbiotic version of him if that's the direction we're headed. My first theory is that Cap will act as our bridge into the next season. We know how much weight collaborations carry, just look at the Chapter 6 finale. So it's very possible Cap will be the one to stop Voyager and trigger a new chain of events. Moving on to the symbiotes themselves, my second theory is that they'll arrive from space, which is their signature style. What's interesting is that the island already has references to this. Near Studio, there's a collection of props for a movie called Pillions, featuring those creepy, peely aliens. Maybe it's just me, but they look an awful lot like symbiotic bananas. I have a feeling this biome and the mountain of alien attack references aren't just a coincidence. The symbiotes might already be here on the island. It's just a theory for now, but it would be incredible to see a symbiotic peeless uprising actually happen. My final theory is that we might leave this island behind entirely. It's a real possibility, especially when you think back to the wilder seasons where Epic prepared something massive, like a dedicated symbiote world. While it feels like a long shot, it's hard not to hope for it, especially with Voyager doing everything possible to harness the 0 point. No one knows what happens once it's fully collected, but it could trigger an even worse disaster or act as a beacon for the King in Black himself, Knull. So why is he called the King in Black? Well, because he is the literal god of every symbiote in existence. Knull was around long before the universe even began, waging a lonely war against the light and creating symbiotes along with all kinds of other nightmare fuel. He's the one who forged the Necrosword, the same weapon that gave Gore the God Butcher his powers. And in the latest comics, he's been putting heavy hitters like Sentry and Thor to the test. Let's just say they didn't pass the vibe check. It's been a long time since I've been this hyped about a character, but Knull is just too good to ignore. He's an incredibly charming yet insanely powerful force of nature. And today I'm going to break down the sheer power of the symbiote god, starting with where he came from. Before the universe was a thing, there was only the void, an endless abyss ruled by Knull. He was just drifting through that nothingness without a care in the world until the Celestials showed up and ruined his peace. They started building the universe, creating worlds, and filling them with life, which Knull found absolutely offensive. He tried to take them out, and even managed to decapitate one, but he eventually had to retreat. He realized he needed a weapon that could actually kill beings on that scale, so he forged All Black the Necrosword, the ultimate weapon of darkness. He used the severed head of that dead Celestial as a forge to charge the blade with cosmic energy, making it the very first symbiote. Because he used a white-hot forge and a massive hammer to build it, that trauma is the exact reason why symbiotes are still terrified of fire and loud noises to this day. Knull didn't stop there. He crafted himself some high-tier symbiote armor and began a literal campaign of genocide against the gods, becoming a legend of pure terror. Early on, he figured out he could summon symbiote dragons directly from the void to wipe out any sign of life. These dragons are way stronger than the symbiotes we're used to. They can kill gods, they're highly resistant to fire and sound, and they're fast enough to keep up with the Silver Surfer, meaning they move dozens of times faster than the speed of light. They can sprout blades and spikes from their bodies and even breathe fire. These dragons terrorized the cosmos for millions of years, eventually reaching the Milky Way and even Earth, where they became the inspiration for all those old human myths about monsters. Knull eventually realized that dragons wouldn't be enough to wipe out all life, so he kept experimenting with darkness and created the symbiotes we know today, along with their home planet, Clintar. As their numbers grew, he developed a mental hive mind connection with them. In the beginning, he could only control a few dragons, but eventually, he was the brain behind thousands of symbiotes at once. That connection actually ended up being his downfall, because the symbiotes eventually rebelled and locked their own creator in the center of the planet Clintar. After being locked away for centuries, Knull finally broke free and turned his captors into a fresh army of dragons. He even infected the Celestials themselves with the Living Abyss, turning them into his own puppets. Now, wearing a white predator mask, he's headed for Earth to bring every other symbiote back under his thumb and finish his war against the light. When you look at his power scale, he makes Gore look like a joke. He can pull supernatural darkness from the void to create an infinite army, or multiple necroswords that can gut Thor. He's strong enough to decapitate a Celestial with one swing and famously rip the Sentry in half. That's a massive deal because Sentry is basically Marvel's Superman, and he's the one who ripped Knull's son Carnage in half years ago. Knull is essentially immortal and has been around for over 13 billion years, making him the oldest villain in Marvel history. He doesn't need food, water, or sleep, and he can fight for billions of years without catching a breath. His only real weakness is the light of life held by other cosmic beings. One funny thing though, even though Knull is technically stronger than Gore, the Silver Surfer managed to beat Knull by creating a sun. So maybe, just maybe, we'll be searching for some kind of source to deal with him.